Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis, and today is Sunday actually, and we're preparing for a huge freeze, the first hard freeze of the year, and actually a really big part of the United States, including the deep south in Florida, is going to get really hard hit. So I think we're going to be okay here in Texas, and I want to get this video in outside because it's really nice outside today, but it's going to start getting worse very soon, so that I can film and talk a little bit about those nobiliors behind me, as well as all the ones that are in my tent. And I have one blooming and one in bud, and I want to do an update on both the domestic plants that I have, the ones that have been living in the United States for a long time, and as well as the imports. And so these three behind me are three of the imports that I got from Brazil earlier in the year. And I want to also show you, I have a big division that is in bud, and I'm not going to move it because this is the point where if you move the plant, those buds are really going to blast. And to be honest, I'm really surprised that an imported nobilior is actually blooming within a few months of being brought into the northern hemisphere. So I'm not entirely sure if those buds are going to pull through and actually throw flowers, but I'll show you what the amazing flowers look like um, before the end of this video. But let's get to the camera turnaround. Oh, you can see my rabbit. His name is Banicula, just chilling there. But let's get the camera turned around and check out the small imports, as well as the grow tent that is full of nobiliors. My buddy Chris also gave me back all the nobiliors that I had at his house in Houston, and it's way more than I remembered. So my grow tents are totally bursting at the seams. But anyway, let's look at these ones behind me. Okay, so here are the three smaller imports, and actually, I was looking at these two blooming when I was in Brazil, and I picked them. So I'm gonna show you a photo of them, of the blooms, and these were the first bloom. So these are quote unquote the ugliest blooms that these two plants will have. I am expecting these to be the nicest nobiliors that exist in this country, and I'm not saying that like with hyperbole. I don't think I've seen nicer ones in the United States. So I'm excited for the next time these bloom. And I potted these up in my usual nobilior mix, which is just the large grade orchiata in a clay pot. And then since I don't fertilize my orchids over the winter, I've got this Jim's Purely Organic fertilizer, which is a slow release. So every time I hit this with water, these things will um, be fertilized at least a little bit, and that's all I need. So you can see the bulbs are a little skinny, and that's okay. I expect these to start putting out additional new growths here very soon. I was thinking actually that these might be the growths since I bought them, but no, I don't believe they are, because you can see the bloom spikes are the last ones to grow here, so they haven't put any out since I've received these. So they're kind of sitting tight right now, which is okay. This one, on the other hand, has put out a new growth. That's this one here. And you can see that the roots here and here are growing. And this is the one that I used the carbonized rice husk. And it's very porous. The water flows through it very easily. And so I'm just going to take some of this carbonized rice husk and cover those little roots. And then you can see that this one is also getting fertilized every time I water as well. But this is a new growth, so this is putting out new roots, and I anticipate by the time I get this outside for summer, starting in early April, these roots will have spiraled around the pot and should be gripping really tightly, and hopefully another growth will have been completed. So nobilior grows very fast, which makes sense when you consider how short their rainy season is. They need to get out a lot of growth in a short period of time. So these are doing really nicely. So I'm excited. I'm happy. I haven't seen this one bloom, but I know what these are going to look like, and they're stunning. And I assume that I think these are actually siblings. No, they're not. They're different, but they're from the same vendor. all of which can be purchased from Francisco, who is importing orchids, and nobilior is actually from this particular vendor. But let's check out the grow tents inside to show the spiking import, as well as the blooming domestic plant, which is a cerulean, as well as all the plants I got back from my buddy Chris. All right, so this is the grow tent that I just set up. I did a video about that a couple of weeks ago. And if you recall, I was really excited because this whole bench here was entirely empty, and I was super happy to have all this extra space. And well, I'm glad that I had the extra space, because it turns out that I got these plants back from my buddy Chris, and they're way more than I remembered. So he was kind enough to take my plants while I was moving around for a long time. He had these plants for a couple of years, actually. And I'm super excited to get them back. He did great with them. But before I talk about these domestic ones, let's continue with the theme of looking at the imports. So the ones that I just showed you were from that little spot way down there. So this tent is super crowded. You can see the light here. You can see the fan going, and you can see catasetum buds and some really nice flowers from my Neobenthemia gracilis, now called Polystachya neobenthemia. And the nobilior division is this big pot there on the bottom. So I'm going to try and stick the camera down there and see how this goes. So you see the blooming nodosa there is kind of blocking the view a little bit, but you can see the buds there on the left. And of course, nobilior has those buds that come out from special growth. Rather than coming out the top of the blooms, they come out of this special growth. And so maybe it's a little easier if I just zoom in. There you go. So there's another view. That was probably just what I should have done originally. But you can see the little buds sticking out right there. There'll be 2 flowers, assuming that comes along. I am going to believe it when I see it. These plants are really finicky. They will put out their buds and blooms, and then suddenly they realize that they don't have enough resources to complete the act, and then they abort. But I do have a photo here that you can see. And this is yet another example of probably, I'm so excited about this because I really think that I haven't seen a better looking nobilior flower in the United States than this one. And so if I'm able to get this to bloom, I'm super stoked. And then having the other ones will just make me over the moon. So that plant is doing really well. And again, that's planted in a large grade orchiata bark in a clay pot, which has proven time and time again to be super, super really good for the plants in my particular growing conditions. It lets me hit them with water every single day during the summer. And then it holds just enough moisture where I water them a couple times per month during the winter. Also, you might see this red thing here. Well, you see the Brassavola nodosa blooming down there, and then you see this red asparagus spike thingy. That's another one of my amethyst glosses. I'm excited to see that one bloom probably in a couple months when they start going. But these are the plants that I got back from Chris. He grew them really nicely. This is the polyploid cerulean, and you can see a photo here of what those blooms look like. And that particular plant will be in bloom for 6 weeks or more. Its flowers are easily double the size of a normal nobilior. It's insane. And then this is just a tipo. This is an import that I got from Brazil, actually. This is one of the other ones that I haven't shown. This is from Floralia. There's a couple of Walkerianas in here. This is a rubra that my buddy Chris gave me, so I'm excited to see that one. I think it's an Amalii times a tipo. This is a nobilior cerulean from Floralia that I got a bunch of years ago. So hopefully that one will bloom. I'll show you a nobilior cerulean. Pull this leaf off here. I'll show you a nobilior cerulean in bloom here in a second. And then I had a couple of Walkerianas which I cut up. Here, here, and here are the extra divisions. I'm going to bring these to my Orchid Society meeting this week and trade those for other things. And then a couple of these ones as well will also go to my society. And that'll free up my space here. Believe it or not, I want space here so that I can grow peppers and tomatoes, as well as some cucurbits that'll go out in my garden in March and April. So I do want some space. And finally, this is a Walkeriana over here, which is mounted on this piece of bark. This is how my buddy Chris grows his plants in Houston. And so I'm going to give it a shot here to grow mounted. I had that Kenny, Cattleya, not Walkeriana, but it's got the clonal name Kenny. It did receive an FCC many years ago. It was mounted, and it did really well, surprisingly well. So I'm going to try more mounted Walkerianas and maybe nobiliors in the next couple of years and see how that works. So that's this tent. Everything is doing well. These native or locally grown ones are getting their sort of harder winter rest. You can see they're next to some catasetums there. And so when I come through and water these, I get these wet a couple times a month, and that's about it. And then same with these ones here on the front and that one that's mounted. Okay, here's my other tent, my other grow tent. And again, you can see I've got 2 lights in here. I have 3 in the other one, but you can see this Cerulean nobilior. This is one that I got from my friend Jean last year, and it bloomed for me. And that color is just so vibrant, so intense. Zoom in here, let's see how that looks. And that color is pretty true to life. There's no enhancement, no wonkiness that I can see on the screen for this one compared to what it looks like in real life. In fact, I'm going to see if I can bring it to judging tomorrow and see what the judges think. The flowers are a little small for a nobilior, not too small, and the shape is not great. You can see that the petals are sort of falling forward. They're still opening, but the ceruleas are just generally not at the same level of breeding as the other ones, the other types of nobilior. So there's a little bit of forgiveness for wonky looking ceruleas. Not a whole lot, but we'll see. We'll see what the judges think tomorrow. These are some compots, 1, 2, and 3. And those compots are selfings of my polyploid cerulea as well as an alba. And so you don't see polyploid ceruleas or albas in the United States very often. So as these get older, I'm excited to see what they look like. And these are some of the larger albas here. But man, you can see how cramped everything is in here. It's not as squished together as I'd want it to be. So I think what I'm going to have to do is in the next growing season, I'm going to go through these and figure out which ones I can sell or part with, since I just don't need this many plants. And I do have a Grace Dunn in bloom, just starting to open up. A couple of spikes. And you can see around the backside there's another spike. The flowers are just going to be gorgeous once they're open. And of course, they are intensely fragrant. And like the other nobiliors that are from the United States, these get watered only a couple times a month. I do have another one, which is from the US. It's in rehab, so it's getting watered a little more frequently. Maybe I can make another video about why that one's in rehab. That one I got from Jean last year, and I kept it potted in the way that she had it, and I didn't realize, but the roots were not doing well under my conditions, being watered every day. So that's another Amalia I'm hoping will be really nice. But anyway, I hope your weekend is going well and that not too many orchids die in the American South this week. I suspect a lot of collections are going to get hit really, really hard in Florida and other places that are not used to those sorts of conditions. I will talk to you later. Bye.